Thank you. Again, Congresswoman Stefanik, welcome, and thank you for your willingness to continue to serve this country and for your past service in the House. While I think we would all agree that the UN is not perfect, it is a force multiplier for the U.S., and it's a prime example of global burden sharing in times of crisis. I was pleased to see that the Trump administration will maintain this position, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, as a cabinet-level position. Now, you've talked a little bit about this already in your responses, but how will you make sure that the work of the UN is understood to help advance U.S. interests around the world? And more important, how can you help convince members of Congress who are skeptics that our contributions and leadership in UN agencies must continue in order to prevent China, Russia, Iran, and other U.S. adversaries from assuming these roles?
Thank you so much, Ranking Member Shaheen. I appreciated our opportunity to visit ahead of time. I will start with your question related to how we convince the American people and elected officials of the importance of investments. I think, as I pointed out to Chairman Risch, doing a review of all of our dollars going into various UN agencies and looking at what are most effective. Typically, UNICEF is another example, in addition to World Food Program. We voluntarily commit, it maintains bipartisan support, and it delivered significant results for millions around the globe, and it strengthens our national security. So when it comes to those key questions, does it make America safer, stronger, and more prosperous? I believe those are examples of programs that do. I clearly think there are certain programs that are not meeting the mission of the UN, the founding principles. UNRWA is an example, and we will likely have a policy disagreement upon that. But I think we need to roll our sleeves up, deliver reforms, and make sure that our dollars are going to programs within the UN that work, that have a basis in the rule of law, that have a basis in transparency and accountability, and strengthen our national security and our partnerships.
Well, thank you. I would point out that right now we're not funding UNRWA.
Absolutely, and I voted to defund UNRWA.
One of the things I talked about in my opening statement was UNFPA. So the opportunity to provide family planning, maternal health care, midwife training, interventions to halt child marriage, to address the practice of female genital mutilation, and to help ensure healthy families. Will you commit to personally reviewing UNFPA's work before the administration makes any decision about invoking the Kim Kasten law?
Yes, if confirmed, I am committed to doing a review, as I said, across the UN programs, but specifically UNFPA. I think it's very important that we do a full review, as the President announced the executive order today as well regarding all of foreign aid, and I would make sure that we are being good stewards of U.S. taxpayer dollars. I do want to point out I have a very strong record when it comes to standing up for women's health issues, particularly addressing maternal mortality rates, addressing pre- and postnatal care, addressing infant malnutrition, and I think that is very important, and that you have my commitment to do that review if confirmed.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your record on that, and I think it's very important to remind everyone that women make up half of the world's population, and we need to do what we can to ensure that their health is also protected. In April, you said that Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine constituted genocide, April of 2022. You called for the delivery of security assistance to Ukraine. At the UN, we've seen inconsistent support for Ukraine. We've seen greater support on initiatives to support Ukraine and less support on initiatives to hold Russia accountable. If confirmed, can you talk about how you might use your role as UN ambassador to address and punish Russia's ongoing attempted genocide in Ukraine?
I support President Trump's commitment to bringing this war to a resolution, to stop the killing, and he campaigned on that issue, and he feels very deeply, and I support that. And I believe it falls squarely in line with the founding mission of the United Nations to bring international peace and security. If you look at my record over the course of my time on the House Armed Services Committee and the House Intelligence Committee, I have a very strong record when it comes to deterring Russia, pushing back on Russia, including during President Trump's term, term, voting for defensive lethal aid to Ukraine. I believe peace through strength is our strongest deterrence, and I'm very proud that during President Trump's first term, it was the only president where Putin did not invade another country because of that strong peace through strength leadership and the rebuilding that we passed through the National Defense Authorization Act and President Trump signed into law. So I think our effort should be my effort will be supporting President Trump's mission to bring that to a resolution and to deter Russia in the long term.
And so how do we hold Russia accountable for some of the human rights abuses that have happened in Ukraine, for their destruction of infrastructure in the country, for the lives that are lost? Clearly, this is a war that is only Vladimir Putin's initiative that has started. So are there things we can do at the UN that will hold Russia accountable?
Certainly, it's going to be important to support President Trump's approach with his special envoy to address and bring that to a resolution. And I will work with the National Security Council and my colleagues in the cabinet who sit in the national security spaces to use this position at the United Nations to support his strategy and give him maximum flexibility to bring this to a resolution.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.